They say the king of the jungle roars to proclaim his territory. They say he roars to warn rivals, but the beast we met in the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, he didn't roar to warn us. He didn't roar to scare us. He roared to silence us. We were 3 days from civilization. Our vehicle was dead, and the shadows were moving. This isn't just a story about a lion. This is a story about what happens when nature decides you don't belong here anymore. Chapter 1. The broken axle, sound of a Jeep engine sputtering, metal grinding, and then silence. Rain drumming on the roof. The sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, painting the African Savannah in hues of blood, orange, and bruised purple, when the axle snapped. It sounded like a gunshot, sharp, metallic crack that echoed across the dry plains. The Land Rover lurched violently to the left, digging its front nose into the red dirt, throwing Elias against the steering wheel. "Is everyone okay?" Elias shouted, his voice tight. He was a veteran guide, a man who had spent 30 years mapping the erratic moods of the bush. But even he felt the cold prickle of unease slide down his spine. His passengers, a couple named Mark and Sarah, were shaken but unhurt. "We're fine," Mark stammered, rubbing his shoulder. "What happened?" "Can we fix it?" Elias stepped out of the vehicle. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of upcoming rain and dry sage. He shone his flashlight under the chassis. The front axle was sheared clean off. They weren't going anywhere. Looked up. The horizon was rapidly disappearing into the ink-black night of the wilderness. They were 40 miles off the main track, chasing a rumor of a rare leopard sighting. No radio signal, no backup. "We stay inside," Elias commanded, climbing back in. "The windows stay up. We wait for morning. But the bush doesn't sleep." An hour into the darkness, the sounds began. Usually, the night is a chorus of crickets, hyenas, and distant elephants. Tonight, it was silent. Dead silent. The silence of a graveyard. That's when Sarah saw it. "Elias," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Look at the tall grass. It's parting." Elias clicked his heavy maglite on. The beam cut through the darkness. 50 yards out, the golden grass was swaying against the wind. Something massive was moving toward them. It wasn't prowling low like a leopard. It was walking tall, confident. 2 orbs of reflective yellow light caught the beam. They were set wide apart, too wide for a normal lion. As the creature stepped into the halo of light, Elias's blood turned to ice. It was a male lion, but unlike any he had ever seen. He was colossal, easily 600 pounds of muscle, his coat dark and matted with old blood. But it was his mane that terrified them. It was jet black, covering his shoulders like an executioner's hood, and half his face was torn away, revealing teeth in a permanent, grotesque green. "Turn off the light," Elias hissed. "Now." Sound of heavy breathing and a heart monitor beating fast. Chapter 2. The siege sound of metal creaking under immense weight. The suspension of the car squeaking. Darkness returned, absolute and suffocating, but they could feel him. The vehicle, a 2-ton machine of steel, rocked, then again, harder. The beast wasn't attacking blindly. He was testing the perimeter. He was testing the structural integrity of their cage. "He knows we're in here," Mark whispered, panic rising in his throat. "Why isn't he roaring?" "Because he's hunting," Elias replied, gripping his hunting rifle. "Roaring is for territory. Silence is for slaughter." Suddenly, a massive thud shook the roof. The metal buckled inward with a groan. The lion had jumped on top of the Land Rover. The sound of claws screeching against the aluminum roof was deafening, like nails on a chalkboard, amplified 1,000 times. They could hear the heavy, wet sniffing right above the sunroof. The glass cracked, a spiderweb fracture spreading across the pane. Sarah screamed, burying her face in Mark's chest. Elias raised his rifle, aiming it at the roof, but he hesitated. If he shot and missed the vitals, He'd just have a wounded, enraged monster tearing through the thin metal. Get down on the floorboards. Elias barked. The lion shifted his weight. The car listed dangerously to the side, then silenced again. The weight lifted. Had he gone? For 10 minutes, they waited. The only sound was their own ragged breathing. Then, a low, crunching sound came from the front. "Oh, God," Elias muttered. "He's not leaving. He's dismantling the car." The lion was at the front bumper. With strength that defied physics, the beast had hooked his claws into the wheel well and was shaking the entire vehicle. He was trying to flip them. This wasn't instinct. This was malice. This was intelligence. The lion, known in local legends as the Obsidian Mane, had hunted poachers before. He knew that soft things lived inside the metal shells, and he knew how to crack them open. Suddenly, the windshield shattered, not from an impact, but from the lion's paw smashing through the passenger side. Glass sprayed everywhere. A massive paw, the size of a dinner plate, swiped blindly into the cabin, hooking onto the dashboard and ripping the radio out in a shower of sparks. "Back! Get in the back!" Elias yelled, shoving the couple into the rear storage area. He swung the rifle butt, smashing it into the lion's paw. The beast didn't pull back. It growled a sound so deep it vibrated in their chests and pushed its head through the broken windshield. The smell hit them, then rotting meat, old musk, and death. Chapter 3. Into the dark sound of rain intensifying to a storm. Thunderclap. Elias fired. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet grazed the lion's ear, sending a spray of blood against the dashboard. The beast roared, a sound of pure fury, and recoiled, pulling his head out of the shattered windshield. "He'll come back," Elias said, wiping sweat and glass from his eyes. "He's just angry now. The windshield is gone. We're sitting ducks." "We have to run," Mark said, his eyes wide with hysteria. "There's a ranger station 5 miles north." I saw the sign. "In the dark? With that thing out there?" Sarah cried. "We stay. We die." Elias said grimly, "He's going to circle back and come through that opening." "But the storm is our only chance. The rain will mask our scent. The thunder will mask our sound." They made the decision. They would leave the vehicle and make for the trees, hoping to climb high enough to wait out the night. It was a suicide mission, but staying in the open tin can was a death sentence. They slipped out of the rear door. The rain was torrential now, a curtain of water that reduced visibility to 0. The mud sucked at their boots. Elias took the lead, rifle raised. Mark and Sarah held hands. Trembling, they moved like ghosts through the tall grass. Every shadow looked like a crouching beast. Every rustle of the wind sounded like a stalk. They made it 200 yards when Elias froze. He raised a fist. Toter left. The grass was flattened. A trail. Fresh. "We're not the only things moving," Elias whispered. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the plains. And there he was, not behind them, not stalking them. He was waiting for them. The Obsidian Mane sat on a termite mound 50 feet ahead, the rain slicking his black fur. He wasn't looking at Elias. He was looking at Sarah. The lion didn't charge immediately. He slid down the mound with fluid, liquid grace, disappearing into the grass. "Run!" Elias screamed. "To the acacia trees!" "Go!" They sprinted. The mud made every step a nightmare. Behind them, the sound of heavy paws, thundering against the wet earth, drowned out the storm. He was coming. Chapter 4. The climb sound of heavy panting, splashing mud, and the terrifying sound of a lion roaring close behind. Sarah's lungs were burning. She could hear the huffing breath of the lion, the wet snap of jaws. It was close. So close. "Climb," Mark shouted, boosting her up the trunk of a large umbrella thorn acacia. The bark was slippery, the thorns tearing at her hands, but adrenaline numbed the pain. She scrambled up, reaching a high branch. Mark followed, pulling himself up just as a massive black shape launched from the grass. The lion missed Mark's boot by inches, his claws raking deep gouges into the tree trunk. The beast landed on all fours and immediately looked up, his yellow eyes burning with frustration. He paced around the base of the tree, growling low. "Where is Elias?" Sarah gasped, looking down. Elias wasn't in the tree. He was standing at the base, 20 feet away. Rifle raised, he had stopped running to buy them time. "Elias? Get up here!" Mark screamed. "He's too fast." Elias yelled over the thunder. "If I turn to climb, he takes me." The lion turned his attention to the man on the ground. This was the duel he wanted. The alpha against the alpha. The Obsidian Mane lowered his head, his tail twitching. He was savoring this. Elias racked the bolt of his rifle. He had 1 round left. 1 chance. "Come on, you devil," Elias whispered. The lion charged. It was a blur of violence. Elias fired. The muzzle flash lit up the night. The bullet struck the lion in the shoulder, shattering bone. The beast tumbled, roaring in pain, crashing into the mud. But he didn't stop. Adrenaline and rage fueled him. He scrambled up on 3 legs, lurching toward Elias. Elias swung the empty rifle like a club, but the lion swatted it away like a twig. The beast pinned Elias to the ground, his massive jaws opening over the guide's chest. "No!" Sarah screamed from the tree. But the lion didn't bite. He stopped. He looked up at the tree, then back at Elias. He was toying with them. He wanted them to watch. This wasn't hunger. It was revenge for the bullet. Chapter 5. The King's End. Sound of a flare gun firing. A high-pitched whistle, then a sizzle. Just as the lion's jaws began to close, a blinding red light erupted in the darkness. Mark had remembered the emergency flare gun in his jacket pocket. He fired it not into the sky, but directly at the ground, inches from the lion's face. The magnesium flare ignited with a brilliant, hissing red glow, burning at thousands of degrees. The sudden light and heat blinded the beast. The Obsidian Mane roared a sound of confusion and pain and leaped back, pawing at his eyes. "Run, Elias! Climb!" Mark bellowed. Elias rolled away from the thrashing beast and scrambled up the tree, his arm bleeding, his ribs cracked, but alive. He hauled himself onto the branch next to Sarah and Mark. Below them, the lion was a creature of nightmare, illuminated by the dying red light of the flare. He thrashed in the mud, snapping at the air, his night vision destroyed by the flash. He circled the tree for hours, bleeding, growling, waiting for them to fall, but they didn't fall. Dawn broke slowly. The storm passed, leaving the savannah washed clean. When the sun finally touched the acacia tree, the ground below was empty. Only the deep, bloody, pug marks and the gouges in the tree trunk remained. A ranger patrol found him at noon. They tracked the blood trail for 2 miles before it vanished into the rocky hills of the borderlands. They never found the carcass. Some say the Obsidian Mane died of his wounds in a cave somewhere. But Elias knows better. He retired from guiding a week later. He moved to the city, far away from the silence of the bush. Because sometimes, late at night when the wind howls through the alleyways, he hears it. Not a roar, but the heavy, wet breathing of something waiting in the dark. And he knows that out there, in the long grass, the king is still waiting for the rematch. Fade to black. Text on screen: nature is not cruel. It is indifferent, and that is why it is terrifying.